When Triumph first came into business, because Oneida Newhouse was such a household name, they named their traps Oneida Game Trap. As a matter of fact, it was an employee from Newhouse that went over, jumped ship, and went to work for the Triumph company. Well, they got sued, and they had to no longer use Oneida, so as you can see, that was overstamped. Triumph over Oneida.
That is a little bit underhanded, don't you think?
Yeah, yep. They were, making money on somebody else's name.
Yeah.
They were sued, I believe they were also sued by Gibbs Trap Company because they used coil springs, and Gibbs was the first trap company to use coil springs.
2 holes in those pans. Why is that?
In the old days, they used to wire a bait on the pan. That was common practice. You see that quite a bit on the older stuff.
So all these are Triumph Kangaroos, are they?
I believe they all are. The Jump was the Kangaroo. That was a relationship.
So is this wall here all Triumph?
Yep.
Boy, they were a significant company.
Yeah, and they made a lot of variations. They kept on trying stuff because competition was pretty steep. In the 20s, there was a pretty good fur boom going on just prior to the Depression.
Well, Tom Parr was telling me about freight cars full of traps leaving, well, it was Oneida Community.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was huge business. I mean, I doubt anybody today comes anywhere near selling the traps that those companies sold back then.
Right. And there were several of them.
What's the T in this trap for?
Oh, that's interesting. That was Triumph. There's only a few that have the T in the pan. There's a 0, 1, and a 1.5. There's Triumph stamped over the top. They only did it for a little while for some reason. I don't know what I got in that. That was a deal. That was paid $45 for that. It's not all that pretty, but that one's actually is an early one. It has remnants of Oneida game on there, which makes that pretty rare.
So when you go to a trapping convention, and is that a place where you kind of get around early so you can find the deals?
Yeah, I put the gloves on and dig through the boxes, and we're all bumping shoulder to shoulder. If you see a truck come in, that tailgate goes down, you've probably seen it before. Everybody's charging over there trying to help that guy unload his stuff. Yeah, that's why all the collectors are always there on Thursday morning, Wednesday, or so.
Where else do you look for collector traps?
eBay, quite a bit on eBay. I used to advertise locally in the newspaper, just put an ad want to buy old traps, and sometimes it would work out. I had an interesting conversation with a guy from Ely. He called me up. He says, "Come and get these traps. They're just in my basement. I've been moving around forever." He was a nice guy, and I had a cup of coffee and a piece of cake with him and his wife, and talked about the old days. And I got the traps, and he gave me the whole box for $15, and I gave him a few more dollars, And the pans on his number 3 new houses had, if you can picture this, a clean spot in the middle, and the outside edge was all black with roofing tar or something. So, being a trapper, I asked him, "What's the scoop on that? What kind of set were you making, and what were you doing there?" He says, "I cut off a piece of 1.5" PVC, and I used roofing tar, and I glued it on the pan. And I set the trap, and I put corn in it, and I lowered it off the end of my dock on the lake." He said, "I fed the ducks all summer, and I wasn't going to let anybody else get them." He said, "I got 16, was the most I ever caught. The duck will go down there and try to grab that corn, and the trap caught him by his ears and he never came up or splashed or nothing.
No evidence, apparently. No visible evidence.
Yeah, and that was, back in their days of survival. Mm-hmm. And he had a big grin on his face. He was all proud of that.